I recently came across a video where a YouTuber transitioned their parents over to Linux. And before I get into it, I don't want to be too critical. Getting more people exposed to a free and open source operating system is always a win, and the video is probably just for entertainment purposes. I won't link to the video in question, but in the video they use Arch Linux and Hyperland, and they teach within the really short video, they run through the terminal, key bindings, and I believe that will scare off any new user. But it did get me thinking, how do we set up a system so that it's easy for our parents to transition to them? Personally, I had some success in this area. I've managed to convert my elderly father to using Linux for over a year, and he's still using Linux to this day. And I've received no tech support calls and no complaints so far. And personally, I don't think my case is universal, but I'm hoping that my experience can help someone else out there who's trying to get their parents to transition. I believe a successful transition boils down to three main steps. Step 1. Understand their use case. What do your parents use their computer for? And really ask yourself if Linux does fit their use case. For example, if your parents exclusively use their computer to read iMessage group chats, then it's very unlikely that they will enjoy their time while using Linux, with all the extra hurdles required to access those chats. In my case, my dad uses his computer to fill in forms, read PDF files, access Facebook, watch videos on YouTube, and do some basic word processing. Taking these usage scenarios into account, it seems like he is probably a good fit. Step 2. Know where they are coming from. I've seen many elderly struggle with using a computer, but those same elderly folk know how to use an iPhone, to message their children, to take photos of their grandkids. And then it occurred to me, Apple had done something amazing. As questionable as that company is, they've created a really intuitive device with a consistent UI, so that if you know how to work an iPhone, you can pick up an iPad and know how to use it. Step 2. Understanding where they are coming from. So this step is to utilize the context of which your parents know computing and to recreate an experience that is naturally intuitive to them. So if they previously used a Mac, think about how you can set up that system so that a Mac user would understand it well. Same with Windows. If they used a Windows system, think about all the nuances of using Windows and try to bring those over to Linux. It's not unusual to see Elementary OS be recommended to Mac users and Zorin OS to be recommended to Windows users. This approach uses familiarity to reduce the fear of the unknown. In the final step, use the information that you've gathered from step 1 and step 2 to create a system that is simple, easy to use, and familiar to your parents. To demonstrate these principles, I'm going to use the Debian desktop that I set up for my dad. He's used it for over a year and really enjoys it. And I'm really proud of being able to set up something that he can use so well. Welcome to my dad's system. This is a system that runs Debian 13, and the reason I picked Debian 13 stable in particular is because I wanted a system that was very stable, and I also wanted the system to be able to update without breaking, because I didn't want a new user to Linux to have to deal with troubleshooting Linux. And then also I had a lot of experience with Debian based systems, and so by picking Debian, I also become in a good position to be able to administer my dad's system when he does come against any issues, which he fortunately hasn't. My tip here would be to use unattended upgrades, and so if I go sudo apt install unattended upgrades -y, install unattended upgrades, and then also configure it such that using dpackage reconfigure to configure the system so that the upgrades get installed automatically. And because I'm picking Debian stable, it's very unlikely that any kind of new updates that occur break the system. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed, but I really wanted to have it such that I can just have it along in the background and know it will be updated and know that it will be very rare for it to break. And then the next things that I've done is really the crux of my thesis on how to make the transition to Linux as smooth as possible, is to really think about the use case and simplify the system so that their use case is front and center. I've picked Xfce, tongue twisted, because my dad doesn't need a lot of eye candy and a quick and nimble system is probably more important. But really think about what the user is used to. So if they're used to a dock, they're more used to Mac OS X or Mac OS, then having it some sort of dock down the bottom would be a nice addition. But since my dad comes from Windows, I've tried to keep it to the Windows layout with a start menu. And if you look at the start menu, it's really greatly simplified as well. What does my dad use the computer for? He does some word processing, he does some internet browsing, he uses a file manager. And then if you look through the system, you see that the programs that appear are greatly simplified to things that he will only use and really nothing else. And the programs that he does use is front and center. And obviously this is LibreOffice Writer and this is LibreOffice Calc, but I've even renamed it to be even more intuitive because they don't really care if it's LibreOffice or if it's another thing. And I've picked, for a browser, I've picked Brave Origin because Brave Origin, just to click into Brave Origin, is... He originally had ungoogled Chromium on there, but then the uBlock Origin on there that I used as an ad blocker, I could no longer use as well. I had to change to uBlock Origin Lite. There's a whole thing about Manifest v2, Manifest v3 story there. But essentially, ad blocking wasn't working as well, and so I picked uBlock Origin because it's free for Linux and also has ad blocking built in. From there, I also kind of configured this browser to be very intuitive. It's got Facebook, it's got YouTube, it's got Gmail right there where he will use it. Other kind of quality of life improvements that I've done. So I've deleted a lot of the extra fonts that came with when I installed Linux. And it came with lots of extra fonts and lots of different languages. So I've stripped them all back and I've even included the Microsoft fonts in there as well. So less fonts, and the fonts he's going to use are the ones that he'll probably encounter from his friends sending him documents from Windows. All of these touches make a system really robust, really simple to use because there's less buttons. There's only really 4 icons he can click, and those 4 things are the things that he will use. And then greatly simplifying and abstracting away all the things that they won't means that the system would be so friendly. And even in the systems, things like the terminal don't exist. The terminal doesn't need to exist because my dad would never use a terminal. I know him well enough. And then when I do need it, I got my key bindings. Really think about how you can simplify it and make things easy for the user and also for yourself, who becomes the tech support person by default. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching the video. Hopefully that gives you inspiration on how to transition people in your life over to Linux. If you don't agree with me, you think I've dumbed it down too much, or if you do agree with me, please let me know in the comments below. I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much, and goodbye.